Oh hey, it's Wes, and today is a big day for some people, depending on whether or not you're a Mac fan, or maybe even just depending on whether or not you're big on computers and the direction that they're going in general. Today we had an Apple keynote that launched the new iMacs, and, well, it wasn't necessarily what everyone was expecting. So, real quick, without any ado, we're going to talk about 4 things that you might have missed about the new iMacs. Maybe they're a deal breaker, maybe they're not. Let's jump right into it. So there are some obvious things that they announced with this announcement. You know, you've got a 24-inch larger display. So we only have the smaller iMac here. Slimmer design, 4.5K, all that stuff, new colors, it's Mac stuff. But we're running on an M1 chip. But it's not M1X. We'll talk more about that later. Number 1, USB-A is dead. So this is going to be the first iMac with no USB-A ports, which is going to be disappointing for some people. So the current iMacs have 2 USB-A and 4 USB-C/Thunderbolt, which is going to bring us to the number 2 thing that you might have missed, is the base version of this only has 2 Thunderbolt 2 ports. That's it. And then the upgraded version has 2 Thunderbolt 2, but then 2 USB-C, USB 3. So this isn't upgrading to USB 4 yet, unlike the new iPad Pro, which is interesting because they both have M1 chips. So here you are left with just 4 ports, only 2 of which are Thunderbolt. Now, honestly, that's not a huge issue because most peripherals aren't Thunderbolt, even after all this time. They're just USB. It's kind of disappointing that it's only USB 3. Also disappointing that something that large can be equipped with only 2 ports. However, there is another port, and that's part number 3, is that the new proprietary, which is unfortunate, power connector, which is MagSafe-ish, which is fortunate, has an Ethernet jack in the power supply that's going to be under your desk. So that reduces the amount of complication, the amount of wires on your desk, but you do still get that Ethernet jack. I'm going to bet they didn't say you're not going to be able to get a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection into that. That's a bit of a loss because the current ones you can upgrade to 10 gig. And then number 4 that you might have missed, and this is the big one, is that this is not the M1X that a lot of people were expecting, or M2. This appears to be the exact same M1 chip that is in the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro 13-inch. You have an 8-core CPU with either a 7 or 8-core GPU, just the same as with the MacBook Air configs. Now, it is still up in the air whether or not these are clocked higher, because it does seem to have a much more thorough cooling solution. Unfortunately, my money is on they are not clocked any higher. Now, don't get me wrong, the current M1 chip is super powerful. It is capable of great things that conventional chips often aren't. But also don't want to oversell it, because the MacBook Air/MacBook Pro have 4 megapixel displays. That's pretty dense, but this is a massive 24-inch 4.5K display. That is 11.3 megapixels. That is 4 times as many pixels that this 8-core or 7-core GPU has to push. So, in effect, if this is the exact same M1 chip as in those other ones, this is actually going to have less effective power. So that's a bit of a shame. Now, you might say this has a larger thermal envelope, which will allow it to perform better even if it's clocked the same way, but that's not really the case because as it stands, the 13-inch MacBook Pro already has no limits on its thermal performance, and you can even take the MacBook Air, put a little bit of thermal compound on it to sink the heat to the case, and it becomes unconstrained entirely. So I really hope this is clocked higher. If you have any questions about this or comments on this new iMac, are you disappointed? Are you excited? Are you going to get one? Does it not at all matter to you because Macs are terrible? I have to say, in an epilogue here, the M1 chip changes everything that you regard Macs to be. Well, not everything. The locked down part about Macs not being able to be changed, boy does it ever not change that. But the value proposition is incredible. You can get this ridiculously powerful, sleek, fancy, shiny computer for only $1,300. That's a fantastic deal. This thing is going to outperform a tremendous amount of stuff, and the display in it itself is, if you buy it on its own, is worth nearly $1,000. It's a P3, wide color gamut, highly accurate display. So they're really giving everyone else a run for their money with the value proposition. Again, let me know down in the comments below what you think. I don't want to draw this out though, so let's go take some photos.